I would like to welcome everybody to this demonstration, preventing the next Jarvis Butts by healing from child abuse and mental illness. Before we get started with this demonstration, salute to all of my moderators, salute to the chat, salute to the replay gang. So this demonstration will be an open panel demonstration. If you have suffered from child abuse, if you suffer from mental illness, and if you would like to join me on the panel to talk about your situation, please feel free to join me on the panel. If you are a counselor or a therapist, and if you would like to come up and give solutions to those that do suffer from mental illness, or if you have solutions to those whom may have suffered from child abuse, please feel free to join me on the panel. If you would just like to come up on the panel with me and talk about it, fine. The panel is open for everyone. Now, when we think about the Naziah Harris case, when we think about Jarvis Butts, all right, I'll just give a brief demonstration for those that are not familiar with the Naziah Harris case. So, Naziah Harris went missing from Detroit, Michigan, back sometime in January of 2023. Now, in 2022, there was a CPS report that was made about Naziah Harris and another child. Naziah Harris' name was listed, and they claimed that Jarvis Butts inappropriately touched them. All right. The CPS report fell on deaf's ear. All right. Now, here is a picture of Naziah Harris as well as Jarvis Butts. All right. So the gentleman right here, that's Jarvis Butts. And then here's a picture of Naziah Harris. That's a picture of Naziah Harris. Now, in the CPS report, they didn't list Naziah's last name. So when the Detroit Police Department got the CPS report, the Detroit Police Department failed to interview Naziah Harris. Their reason was because there was no last name on it. That was 2022. Fast forward to January of this year. Charges was filed against Jarvis Butts for the unaliving of Naziah Harris as well as inappropriate touching. Appreciate the super chat, Drea. Salute, Shank Rock, gratitude. Appreciate that super chat. Now, Jarvis was already convicted of inappropriate touching of a 4-year-old whom he gave a STD to, and he done 8 to 10 years. Upon his release, the aunt of Naziah Harris, which is in this picture with Jarvis, Shannon, she, being a good Samaritan, she said that if society could give Jarvis a second chance, then she could give Jarvis a second chance as well. So Jarvis and Shannon ended up having 5 children together. One of those children, and I won't say her name, but one of those children also reported that Jarvis, which is her father, inappropriately touched her as well. And then there are other children in the family that said Jarvis inappropriately touched them as well. Now, let's start at the beginning, because the reason why I titled this Preventing the Next Jarvis Butts, because even though in these cases of Naziah Harris and the other children, Jarvis was the monster, but at one time in Jarvis's life, when Jarvis was 13, he was a victim as well. He was inappropriately touched by this woman right here. And unfortunately, this woman was never prosecuted. No charges was ever filed in the case of this woman inappropriately touching Jarvis Butts. I believe that if Jarvis would have got help at the age of 13, I do believe that it would have prevented Jarvis from becoming the monster that he ended up becoming. And I do believe that that would have saved Naziah's life, and as well as saving her life, that would have protected her innocence from being robbed, as well as these other children. Now, I'm going to drop the link. I'm not going to really go much more into the Jarvis Butts and Naziah Harris case, because I want to focus on those out there that have a similar story, because I do believe that by talking about this, I do believe that if not everyone that is in this situation, I do believe that there are those that are in these situations that will be able to get some healing. So if you would like to join me on the panel, if you want to talk about your experience, if you are experiencing it now and you want to talk about it, the link is for you. I dropped the link, Sheila. And if you have any solutions, feel free to join me on the panel. See, by Jarvis not getting the help that he deserved, Jarvis should have got help. He should have got help. And I do believe that there are a lot of underage boys that are being inappropriately touched as we speak of right now. They don't have a safe space. They don't have nobody that they can talk to. Glad to have you back, Sheila. How you doing?
I am well, Shank. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. It's always a pleasure to hear your voice.
Well, it's a pleasure of you letting me be here with you this fine Sunday. Hello, everyone. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day, a blessed Sunday. And Shank, I'll just hop in or hop on when I guess get busy. I don't know what to say.
Okay, now you did speak on your situation on a previous demonstration, right? So for those that wasn't here, for those that are not familiar with your story, do you mind sharing your story with us? And you could just start wherever you want to start. You could take as long as you want. You could be brief. Everything is totally up to you.
Okay. Again, y'all, thank you for giving me this opportunity to be transparent about my past. Like Naziah, I had been groomed. It started at 8. And I often wondered because these were two grown men and they were brothers, and they were in their late 20s, I believe, early 30s. And each one of them, took the time to mess with me. They snatched my innocence. And, that people like to tell us that, it's our fault when we, pick up and addiction starts. Well, I beg to differ with that. Is that if you continue to keep doing what you always do, you're gonna continue to get what you always get. So, with that being said, these monsters, I used to often wonder if they set that up together or if they, you know, um, were both just known pedophiles and this was what they did, period. Whether it was together or not. However, at the age of 8 was when I picked up my first cigarette. I picked up my first weed duck out the ashtray. And I would use those methods to help erase the thought and the taste of them out of my system, out of my mouth, out of my mind. In turn, I started pretty much hurting myself and others. And I had said before, hurt people hurt people. And I did that myself out of being hurt. I also had started being promiscuous and doing little, freaky things that I thought were okay with other kids. And, I used to be so ashamed when I found out how wrong that was. I just wanted to hide up under a rock. But that too had became a part of my, story you know um and so I had never told anyone because one, I didn't think anybody would believe me anyway, and I didn't know how do you bring up that conversation when you're 8. How do you begin to tell? And so when I finally told someone about it, it was my mother, and I believe 45 or 47 at the time. It broke her down, and she asked, why had I, not told anyone before then? And I just looked at her and I said, Mom, how do you at 8? How do you even begin to start the conversation? That I'm being touched or so and so is making me do, and then you think you might get in trouble because you didn't tell sooner,
Let
and
me
so
just let me just slide in. Appreciate the you becoming a membership mom, Dukes. Did your mom believe you? And the reason why I'm asking this because I had Krishan Rock's older sister, China, and she said that her mom didn't believe her. And also in the Nazaria Harris case, she told, and it went on death's door. Did your mom believe you?
she did. She actually did. And that didn't make me feel away. I just felt like, damn, I finally said it. But throughout the years were unexplained behaviors, you know, because then therapy, therapy, what? We didn't know about having therapy, to help in that time, and so
And I don't mean to cut you off. Let me slide in. Now, you were 45 years old when you told your mom, correct?
45 or 47.
composed to Naziah being 12,
Yeah.
Krishan Rock's sister being in high school, I believe. Now, we wonder why. We wonder why females don't tell. We wonder why little girls don't tell. Because in Naziah's case, she did come forward. She did tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And look what happened to her. She eventually had to go along with this monster. See, the trauma, the not being protected. You go from somebody help me, this grown man is inappropriately touching me, Jarvis is inappropriately touching me. She thinks that that's going to get her help, but the very ones that were supposed to protect her, her grandmother and her aunt, failed her. The aunt, when CPS called, the aunt said that didn't happen. The grandmother, she just went on with her everyday shenanigans, and the little Naziah hers was fed to the wolves. Here comes the manipulation part on Jarvis. Come on then, Sheila.
You know what I believe when, that was what it was then with Naziah. It was hid because Annette and the rest of them had something to lose. And they were running from the law because, let's say, had it came out that grandma knew and, it had been going on some time, her income would have been snatched.
Right.
The kids in her household would have been taken away,
Now,
and
now,
so
and I don't mean to cut you off. Go
no,
finish what you're going to say, because I'm going to go into generational trauma. Finish what you was
right.
going to say, and I apologize.
No, it's okay. And so in that case, I just feel like they had a lot to hide, you know. When I was a young kid, back then it would have been, I'm sure, question after question after question, and an 8-year-old mind doesn't know how to handle all of that, so everything plays a part in why we don't speak up, and in that case when that baby spoke up, she was silenced, because they all had something to lose. They wasn't thinking about her. They were thinking about their losses and how they would look, I believe. Um, I had started learning how to avoid going to those monsters' house. You know, I started doing things like, I would go outside, and when I knew we, had to go with our aunt, who in turn would drop us off at her sister's and whatnot, I would go get lost. I'd take on the consequences later, like where in the hell were you when we were supposed to be going here and this and that, opposed to telling why I didn't want to go, and it wasn't just them two. It was a mental, um, you know, um, mind game with people in our families at the time. These were extended family members. They wasn't blood, you know. And so at the time, kids don't get to choose what they want to do or where they want to go. At that time, it was you gonna do what I say and you gonna go where I take you. Back then in the 70s, you don't tell your mama what you gonna do or want to do. You gonna do what your mama tell you to do, and that's that. So um I'm gonna think a little bit more on, being more transparent and letting someone else speak at the moment so that we can all, I just want to be on the same page with others too. And
All
so
right.
I'll stop there for a minute.
Okay. Let my second panelist guest, Tammy, slide in. I want you to come in, Tammy. Do you feel or do you believe that mental illness can be the cause of a pedophile?
Hey, Miss.
Trump. Hello, everyone. Hey, fam, and everyone who said hello to me in the chat. Absolutely, I believe that toxic environments breeds toxic coping skills. Trauma just means that you have an emotional response to something that has been overwhelmingly difficult for you to handle an event, and it has a negative impact on your life. So, for myself, I am a person who has not been raped once but twice. As a child. And I, as a teenager, I told my mom, I said, hey, this guy is touching me. And she said, what do you want me to do about it? Now, it never dawned on me until I was an adult and seeked help for myself that she may have had trauma of her own and may not have known how to help me. Because it's not the thought that she wanted me, because nobody knows. That could have been a thing that broke me for the second time. And who knows, a lot of times, like in R. Kelly, I always use celebrities to try to make an examples. I think R. Kelly should be out of jail because he was a victim himself. And there was no intervention, no healing, nothing to help him navigate that behavior that he was taught. Because when something happens to you and there are no arms to hold, no consoling, what you start asking yourself is, why is this happening to me? Why are they hurting me? And then sometimes, as a rape, in my case, it turned out that I had to embrace it and start acting promiscuously. Because I don't want to be hurt anymore. So if you can't beat them, you sort of join them.
Tammy, use grape, say grape or even inappropriate touching.
Correct.
Instead of the R word.
Okay. Inappropriate touching. I'm sorry. I know. And see, even this, if you look like I do and you're part of the diaspora, you are suffering from generational trauma, and I'm going to explain why. According to Maslow's chart, building your self-esteem and self-actualization, there are certain things that's supposed to happen at the bottom. If it's the thought that you can't feed yourself, if you don't have proper shelter, if you don't have proper love, how are you going to be your higher self? Where is this information and teaching going to come from? If you don't feel safe, how are you going to get to a place of esteem? How are you going to get to a place where you can interact with your community? So when people are inappropriately touching you, more times than not, especially for us that's in the diaspora, this has been happening for a long, long time, going back into the master's house.
Yeah.
So we learn not to say anything about it. We learn to keep it quiet instead of exposing it. So then you end up saying, well, where's Uncle Charlie? Is the kids around? That's no good. That's not an answer. I'm sorry, it's just not.
Thank you. Thank you, Miss Tammy. You hit the nail on the head with that.
So, unfortunately, a lot of times mental health issues come up because, again, like I said in Maslow's chart, I can't protect myself. There is no safety. So if I don't feel safe, you just like myself, Eric, you choosing not to self-disclose, but I'm going to self-disclose. I lost a parent by the age of 5. So that meant I had to be raised by a mother who had to work. And so therefore, that meant that I was left unattended. Was that intentionally done? No. That was done in order to survive because there were other children behind me. But because I had emotional responses to my trauma, I was the aggressive child in the house. And I had to be separated from the other children because I became the threat instead of what happened to me. I just don't think they knew. So for me, I started self-medicating. Because the people who are trusted to take care of me can't, because they're suffering from some things too.
Mm. And as children, once again, like Tammy said, you know, she lost a parent at 5. I lost my dad at 9. You know, so it wasn't intentionally. Mom Dukes had to work now. Mom Dukes had to take on 2 jobs. I'm the baby. You know, I got a brother and a sister that's in the house with me. I got an older sister live down the hill. But so now my sister, you know, she get ready to do her thing. She's a teenager. She's 15 years old. Pop's gone. Brother, he's 14. He get ready to do his thing. You know, I'm seeing all of this. I'm stepping off the porch at 10, 11 years old. Mm-hmm. Wish like hell I'd have stayed on the porch.
When we get grown, we do.
So now here comes trauma coming from all kinds of angles.
Abandonment issues, all kinds of shit.
Right. And see, we as children, and this is children all around, as children, we are faced with peer pressure. Peer pressure is a MFer.
Oh, man.
Peer pressure played me out of who I was until anger management. Because you know where we come from, Tammy. We was taught the left side of things. For the females, y'all had to be on the left side of things to be accepted. For us, the left side of things. Now I'm getting into all kind of ish. At a young age, scared to death. I'm 13, 14 years old.
But you're not alone.
I'm right. I'm not alone. Now, my day ones, we all find this out later on in life. Shank, you wasn't the only one that was scared. We all was scared. We 13 years old. So the trauma, now we stepping up. We bringing that trauma. Now we become the monsters. We running around on some rah-rah-ish.
Mm-hmm. But think about when all that hell broke loose, and I'm going back to my 8-year-old self. When I lost my dad, I was 8 of cancer. However, my mom lost her husband and turned to drugs. So again, I had no one but God. And I didn't know everything that I know about God at that time. So I felt alone. Other family members who didn't know where my actions and attitude had started and, you know, where it came from. So now I'm getting whoopings, beat down because I'm doing shit that no 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old girl should be doing. 16, full-blown heroin addict, because mama is one and selling it. Now, when mom falls on her ass, that's when I try to pick up, the family and carry us. So I start selling it. You know what I'm saying? Became my best customer and took care of my mom to keep her from turning tricks. At least I thought that's what I was doing. Turning tricks, going out in the street, doing things that embarrassed a child, that it would embarrass your kids, because not just it, but now your friends on the street see it. And so that's when peer pressure, like you said, turns you every which way but loose. Because now you got to try and, be on a level where you look strong and you running with what you thought the day ones and doing all that they were doing and not knowing they were hurt too. So it kept going and it kept going. And then now I'm a 20-year-old woman. And thank God I didn't have kids. Because at 20, I was turning tricks. I couldn't keep up with being a dope dealer. Like I said, I had become my best customer. So that cycle went on and on and on until I became a mother at 25. And I'm 26. My son was born. I didn't know I was pregnant with him. But when I found out, I was 6 months into it. Can you imagine what all my addict had, done? I stopped when I was pregnant with my daughter, but I picked it right back up after she was born. But I now believe my addiction is what started my son's whirlwind now. Mm. So now my baby is an addict, in and out of prison, ain't scared of nothing. Which, when a person ain't scared to lose something, that person is to be feared. Let me
not to cut you off. Let me let my third panelist guest, Uncle Charlie, slide in. Appreciate this super sticker, Charlotte. And if you would like to help me meet my 15 super stickers and super chat quota for this demonstration, click on the $ and purchase a super sticker or a super chat. One of the benefits of purchasing a super chat, if you have a question for me to answer, if you have a comment for me to read, I answer all super chats. Slide in, Uncle Chuck.
Hey, Uncle Charlie.
Hey, how y'all doing? How y'all doing today?
Good.
Well,
hello.
This is a serious subject. Let me tell you something. 3 out of 10 children in the United States get touched by somebody they know. That is a problem. That is more problem than somebody you don't know. Let me explain something to you. This is why you don't have this kind of problem in China or India or Russia, because you'll get put to death. Yeah. We need, I always say, and I might be wrong, people might take this wrong, I think we need a castration law. Let me explain something to you. You cannot tell me that you disabled in the head because you touching children. I'll tell you what, if you that disabled, I'm gonna turn my stove on and you put your hand down there and leave it down there. Then I know you disabled in the head. But if you pull your hand back, you got all the sense in the world. So don't give me that old bull crap. Don't give me that. Let me tell you something. I was friends with these people over on the other side there when I moved across town here, and this lady know her brother can't keep his hand on. He get drunk, he go touching them children. We got the word around town. He be touching about. I didn't know it until he done went across the street over there. We was having like a neighborhood party. He don't touch the child. and they beat him with a barbecue grill. Let me tell you something. You can't even use that grill no more. They're gonna beat his ass so bad. This is what I'm talking about. You have to pay for what you do. We have to protect our children. And the worst hurt is the hurt of a child getting touched by somebody they know that's supposed to take care of them. This is a problem. Look at Chris Hansen when he set that man up. He don't came in the garage. Super Bowl naked. He said, "Well, let me stop you, man. I want you to put your clothes on. We're gonna let you go, but you need to stop." 2 weeks later, he got caught at McDonald's with his clothes off again. See, it's something you're not getting. See, I'm gonna tell you something. I don't know algebra. Lord knows I don't do. I flunked in high school in algebra. But if you're talking about cutting my hand off, I do every algebra on that paper. I guarantee you, I do every problem. You have to send a message. A castration law needs to be signed into law. But see, it will never get signed into law because it ain't just a person you know. It's people in high places. So you got to. This is why I say it take a village to raise a child. That's what I mean. If my baby going over her friend's house, I shouldn't have to worry about her friend daddy touching her. I shouldn't have to do that. You touch my grandbaby, ooh, Lord have mercy. I'm gonna do something to you. I ain't gonna even go to church no more just to do something to you. This is what I'm talking about. We have to protect our babies. This is not a game out here. People are sick. They're doing all kinds of stuff. Let me show you why it's so bad. And I'm gonna turn it back over to you. My auntie, she loved the Lord. She loved the Lord. You can't tell her nothing about the Lord. Well, she do a lot of cooking greens on she makes Sunday dinner every Sunday. But she called my mama. She said, I think somebody watching me or something. She said, well, just look out your window. It's some guy across the street. She told my mom, my mom said, well, just call the police. She said, no, I ain't gonna call the police. If he been looking in this window, he'll be back tomorrow. And just to show, 6:30 when the sun went down, he was peeking through that window. She said, I got something for him. So she pulled the curtain back. She was butt naked standing there, showed him all that wolf, and he took off running. What I can't understand is that when she had her clothes on, you couldn't stop looking. Now she got her clothes off. Now your ass is running. This is what I'm talking about. We need to send a clear-cut message. You touch a child, you're going to get castrated. And I believe that will deter a lot of men and a lot of women. You got that white lady that was a teacher. She going with the 15-year-old boy. They locked her up. Soon as she got through with her symptoms, guess who she went and got? That boy that she was messing with. And now he looking older than she is. And they got children. This is what I'm talking about. So I yield back.
Let me slide in real quick, and then I'm going to have you come in, Tammy. Appreciate this super sticker, Quetta. Now, during our day and time, street justice, it was the norm. Yep. Even those in the community, even when we were doing wrong, we still protected the children. One case that me and you familiar with, Tammy, was Kelly, Frida's daughter. And the situation with that. Well, of course, me and the rest of the fellas in the neighborhood, whoop-de-whoop-whoop-whoop. Make a long story short, nowadays, we don't have that. Nowadays, people are turning a blind eye to things that are happening to these children. Now, when it comes to the mental illness, right? Mm-hmm. It's what Uncle Charlie said. Right from wrong. And I've always said, I can accept someone's mental illness status. However, even mental illness still know right from wrong, because there are a lot of folks that suffer from mental illness that know right from wrong, and they don't commit these heinous acts that some do. Now, when it comes to dealing with them, this is one of our biggest problems. And it's because many of us were raised different. Religion plays a part in things. Some people are going to argue, who are we? We're not God. Only God can judge. remember an eye for an eye. Now, me, I'm old fashioned. I'm Old Testament. I'm New Testament as well, but I'm old fashioned. I'm in the Old Testament, an eye for an eye. Appreciate that super sticker, Robin. I feel like, especially if you harm a child, you should be dealt with. I don't think anybody that inappropriately touches a child, I don't think that they are fit to be in society. They can receive rehabilitation, they can receive treatment, and maybe they don't have to always go to prison. Maybe they are awarded to a mental illness. I mean, a mental facility. What was Spring Grove? Remember Spring Grove, Tammy? So there, and I'm gonna let you come in, Tammy. There are solutions. There are ways to rehabilitate these mental illness cases. But in inappropriate touching of children, I don't think that they should be fit to live in our community. Come on in, Tammy.
Okay, it's a couple of things I want to hit on. First, the church. Depending on what your culture is and where you're from, the church may be the first place that we find this inappropriate behavior, especially in the Catholic Church. And I don't mean any disrespect to anybody practicing anything. I'm just stating what the facts are when it comes to certain religions, what it is. And some of this stuff is embedded in our culture. When you look at Easter and dressing up the kids, where did this stuff come from? When you talk about the young lady Kelly, even with your best efforts, that sister ended up taking her life because she could not emotionally deal with what happened to her. And as much as we tried to stop it, she still had to live with the event and what happened, even long after it stopped. And there is no words or healing that can take it away. What I've learned to do with my incident is try to help somebody else. So you have to be vocal about it. So that's the first thing. That's the first solution. We have to advocate that to our young adults. When it's said, now when it comes to what should we do with the offenders, I think just like we have mental health facilities, we should have facilities just for that. Fly them out the country somewhere. If we got to send them to Japipi, all of them go there. Wherever you commit this crime at, all of them go out there.
Yeah.
This way we can start to learn about this behavior, because some people are just inherently evil and they're going to target the most vulnerable of our society, which are the elders and the youngest, because of whatever. Everything is not mental illness. This thing here, what we're talking about, is embedded in Hollywood and Nickelodeon and other places, where as though they want you to believe that somebody can be a billionaire and you not know where their money come from, but they happen to be the biggest inappropriate toucher of all. Mm-hmm. By the name of Epstein. I just don't buy that. I think the highest of our society, the 1% of our society, culturally, these things are embedded into our culture through religion, through art, through music, subliminally. When you dress your kid up for Easter, who you dressing them up for? What you think those eggs are for? The eggs are for fertility.
Teach.
So you have to know what you're doing. You can't just continue to do things ritualistic that keeps these people thriving. Mm-hmm. Educate yourselves. That's the only thing I can tell you. My experience made me educate myself.
Same.
I exposed the person that did that to me, but again, I had an adult that didn't know what to do with it. And the thought, and for me, one of the people was a white man. She told me in no uncertain terms, if I go to another white man about that white man touching you, they gonna take your black ass to jail. That's what she believed. This trauma, especially if you come out the diaspora, has been there since we arrived.
Yes, it has.
And we haven't done anything. We never learned how to deal with it. So how are we going to come together as victims? Because you can't do anything for us without us. So there were some solutions on the line. I think that Jarvis himself should be sent out somewhere, whether it's in Alaska, Antarctica, the Arctic, put the jail out there, let them go out there, let them be isolated, let them sit around mental health therapists and other things. And when they start to see certain images, that's what we need electroshock for.
Tell me great minds don't think alike.
Let me let my next guest come on, Tammy. Salute, Lady Libra.
All right, I'm a clock out or whatever. Clock me out.
Salute.
Okay.
Hey,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm a victim as well, and so is my daughter. 25 years ago, she decided she wanted to just uh, leave the house and be promiscuous or whatever, and so I was a 20-some-year foster care provider. Had children in my own home that I'm caring for. She decides she wants to go and do something that I against my wishes. So she said, "Well, mommy, I'm not coming back in your house," because she wanted to be grown. She wanted to go stay with her dad. Well, her dad's a sex offender. So I goes to the courts and I says to them, "Listen, I'm her legal guardian, and if she's not coming back in my house, then you all put her into foster care. She can't go with him. He's a sex offender." They told me, ma'am, his name is on the birth certificate, and if his name is on the birth certificate, yes, he can. She can go with him. She goes with him, finish out her last year of school, and you can just almost imagine what happens. So I get her back home, enrolled her in school here so that she could finish, goes to the police station, filed all the claims that I could possibly file, and because it didn't take place in my state, it took place in their state. Delaware didn't do anything about it. So I took it a step further and I went to the Capitol to come up with a program that any sex offender that ever came out of jail, they're not going to be rehabilitated. They always going to have that in the back of their minds. They might not, that's just like a snake. I went as far as trying to pass a bill that if you're a sex offender, you should not have no type of children in your care. You shouldn't have custody of your own children. So Jarvis and all that mess that he done, he should never see daylight. And I'm with the young lady that said he need to go over to Alaska somewhere in that electric shock stuff. So, but I don't think he'll make it out where he's at to go to Alaska, because they're gonna take care of him in there, and that would be good enough for me for what he done to all those children. And what's happened to my daughter, um, I'm cold-hearted at this point, and I'm sad. But whatever happens to him, it'll be fine and dandy with me. So I guess we all dealing with trauma. We all are going through something, and we all need much prayer, because this happened 25 years ago, which seems like it's just yesterday. She's moved on with her life, had children, and I've almost lost my mind behind it. And he no longer lives out of state. He lives in state where I'm at. But just imagine, he went to jail, he got out, he served his time. But imagine being on at the traffic light beside him.
as a
Trauma is bad, and we all are going through it, and we all need much prayer.
and as a society, as a people, what is left for us to do when the institutions, the organizations that is there for to help us,
They're not helping.
like Tammy was saying, you know, the majority of the inappropriate touchers are in the church,
Pastors,
the pastors.
look at all the choir directors, all of those little boys, those choir directors.
Can't hear you too good, Libra. Can't hear you too good.
Look at all the choir directors, every last one of them. They all been touched in the church,
Yeah.
and that's the truth. Donnie McClurkin, go back and look at the guy that sang the song "The Storms of Life Are Raging." That man, he molested the guy in the church down there in, I don't know, Alabama somewhere, and he was the choir director. That guy came back later and killed that man. I never knew that story.
Yeah.
So it starts in the church. We trust the and our grandmas instilled that in us just because they lived back there in that time. Go to church, come home. Go to church, come home. You can trust the church folks, and the church folks are the main one that was doing it to us. Just about every choir director. Pay attention to them.
You know what I believe though is that starts at home, and people go and try and hide in the church.
Yes,
You know,
ma'am.
and which makes it sad because everyone who's partaking in those actions know each other. They know what they're doing. You know.
Now, can I say this about Jarvis? Now, he
Yes,
was
ma'am.
touched at 13 years old. So, and my daughter was, okay, I have to back up a little bit. So was I. So when I had a kid, I had too much hormones, which caused my child to have precocious puberty. Where when she was born with breasts, and she was developed. So that she had to have medications to slow down her hormones. So of course she had developed at like 5 or 6 years old. You had to keep her close to you. So now that I think back to it, and she was on medication, she had to have a shot. It's called a Lupron shot. If you look up the book Terry Too Soon, it's the kids that starts developing too soon before their time. And I'm almost sure that's what happened to Jarvis because of that woman doing what she did to him. And he just went on through life and thought he was on top of the world. And all he had to do was take some medicine for it. He didn't take the medicine because he liked what he was doing. He never thought he would get caught.
Let me go ahead, Tammy. Come on, Tammy.
I want to share something with you
Anyway,
guys. The type of work that I do, I work in SUD, substance use disorder, and most people who come in who do this level of self-medicating, everybody that not everybody, but most people that I've encountered had some level of trauma in their life. I encountered one woman who was 42 years old that was still sleeping with her father. So she released this, and if you could see the look on her face, it was like she just dropped a ton of rocks and my mouth was open like, sister. So the other girl beside me was like, why you not calling the police? Why you not calling the police? She dropped to her knees and started crying, said, I don't have a mother. If I do that, I won't have a father either. And she told me, she said, Miss Tammy, you just don't understand. When people start messing with you when you're young, your body do things to you that you don't even want it to do. So it wasn't that he started liking it. He was trained and his body just responded to stimuli. That's what we do. We're not numb to things. We respond to it. And it wasn't... the trauma that you go through, you make decisions behind that trauma in your future.
And that's what they call being turned out. It's you get turned out.
I couldn't make that young lady turn her dad in. It was a horrifying situation. And only thing I could do was hug her real tight, which I'm not supposed to do. But I am human. And I understand what it's like not to have control over your own body and somebody doing something to you that they're not supposed to. I know that all too well. And because of that, I can guarantee you that she met a man and she let him do some things to her somewhere along the line that he wasn't supposed to either. You get into Hollywood. Some people say they don't suffer from trauma, and then they meet these people, and what happens? They get turned out because they want something so bad. People target people who they know that they can get away with these types of things. That little girl had nobody, and he knew it.
And let me just slide in, Tammy. We've all been turned out before. Some of us are still getting turned out. You don't want to have sex with so-and-so. It might be an ex. Man, I've been there before. When I ain't having sex with her funky ass no more. Woo-de-woo-woo-woo-woo-woo-woo-woo-woo. She done some football ish to me. She come, my baby mothers. She come, wanting to put the ass all up on me. Woo-de-woo-woo-woo. I get in the kitty cat. I'm turned out all over again. Knowing I was supposed to be having sex with this funky ass hoe right here. But just imagine a child. Imagine 11, 12, 13 years old. Somebody sexing you up. Let me let Uncle Charlie come in. Come on there, Uncle Charlie.
I'm going to say this. That's why you need to ask yourself a question. See, animals don't get turned out, but human beings do. So we need to figure out how the hell that happened. Let me tell you something. How can I know you, this grooming stuff, how can I know you for almost 4 years? And all of a sudden I see you now you standing up in there naked. You're hiding the world. Can I go to sleep that night? Don't seeing you naked like that. And I got to go to sleep at night and know why, what did I do for you to take this? And this is another thing. You blaming yourself. It's not you. Why would you blame yourself for somebody else standing up there naked? That's what I want to know. People need to understand. Let me explain to you this way. I want to say this to all the women that been sexual assaulted. Listen, I'm praying for you, and that shouldn't happen to you. I'm praying for you because that hurts. That hurts me as a man. But I'm telling you, Shank, talking to you, Shank, talking to Shank. This we mean. That pappy, that brain need to be removed because that brain sends a signal to your private parts to what to do because you're sick in the head. This is what I'm talking about. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you, it's like a young man. It's like a young man being 19 years old, and the woman, she's 59, 49 years old. If he keep messing with her, he know she's way too old for him, and she know he's too young. He's just a child up on her. But let me tell you something. She will bring you dinner. She'll bring you lunch, and she'll put something in that food, and you will never go nowhere. She'll put something in the food, and never go nowhere. Let me tell you something. They got a powder that's from overseas that you can take it and blow it in somebody's face, and they under your total control. That woman wanted that man so bad, so she blew the powder in his face, and he went down there and emptied his whole checking account. And then he laying up there. She out spending his money. He laid in bed naked. Something is wrong with that. We need to stand guard on our children. If that means we go to prison, so what? We go to prison. That's the way it's going to be. You mess with my grandbaby, you mess with my son, and you 35, 45 years old, I'm going to get you. No. Now, you can't go out there. You mean to tell me there ain't there another 49-year-old out there in good shape? You can find somebody. Don't give me that, he did everything I love, and I ain't never been this way since I met. He 19, fool. This is what I'm talking about. We got to protect our children. And these preachers, these Jerry Curl wearing preachers, You gotta watch them. They're not messing around. Let me tell you, these preachers, they don't care who legs they get up in there. They don't give a damn. And they don't care about messing with children too. So we need to go in, and that's another thing. The church do not preach this. And that's the problem. The church don't preach this. All that minister doing up there and making folks go to sleep, and you wonder how much money you don't gave his ass. And that's all I got to say, because I'm gonna get real mad and I'm gonna lose my cool. So I'm gonna yield back.
Thank you, Mr. C. I do agree with one thing that you said, that that we do, and I'm going to throw this back at you. I'm sure you've been around a man that's been 40 something and he brags to you about his 18, 19-year-old girlfriend. That's a child to him.
Yeah,
and see, a lot of men don't call other men out like that.
I do. I tell you, get the hell away from me. Well, see, let me tell you something. You would take a chance on touching a child, and then they put you in jail, and you really ain't about that life, and then they take you up to the fourth floor to the alternative cell, and all of a sudden now you don't freaked out. Wait a minute, hold on. You had all this fire in messing with a child, but when the real stuff jumped off, they put you up there on the fourth floor with that guy with that perm in his head, with that Bama gel in his hair. And he got his big bubble laid to the side. Yeah, that's the one gonna get you. That's what I'm talking about. We need to protect our neighborhoods. We need to protect our children, and that's all I'm trying to say.
Let me slide in before somebody else come in. If you would like to support the channel, if you would like us to reach our 15 goal of 15 super stickers and super chats, just click on the $ symbol. If you click on the $ symbol that's in the chat, it will allow you to purchase a super sticker or a super chat. All right, y'all can come back in.
Eric, this is just, I think our society is upside down in many ways. Again, trauma is intentionally introduced into our culture. And it has been intentionally introduced, like I said, since we've been here. We haven't found good ways to protect ourselves or our children. So what does it really mean to protect our children? First of all, we have to be humane. Everything that we do replicates aggressiveness. This is what we teach our children. We teach our children. I can tell you this. We teach our children things like, and I said it in a post the other day. If somebody hits you, you better hit them back. But then when they do it, they go to jail. But we're not teaching them, if your body is your temple.
Right.
And when you're ready, it takes some time to be ready for certain acts. A sexual act takes time. And if somebody tries to get you to do that, they're destroying your essence.
Yes.
We don't advocate things like that. We keep teaching them the things that the master taught us that allows them to keep doing what they're doing and what's happening to us. And then they'll say, we'll pray for you. Go up in the Catholic Church so it can happen to you again. And then if you don't like it, we'll send you to jail. Well, it'll happen to you again. Or send your kids to baby bookings, where they take everything out of your community. Your kid acts up, and then they'll send them over to the jail system, where it'll happen to them again. And Baltimore City jail system, juvenile system, they didn't say other kids were raping me. They said the staff did this to me.
Stay right there, Tammy, because I want to slide in, and I want us to go back in time. Salute, Miss Parker. Appreciate that super sticker, that Arius Love. Appreciate that super chat, JS. Blessings to all. I want us to go back into time. And the time that I want us to go back into is the time of segregation, right? Now, the files of Martin Luther King have been open, right? When Trump got in office, the files of Martin Luther King, as well as JFK and somebody else. He wanted them to be reopened, right? Now, we always were taught that Martin Luther King, his speech, right? We also was taught that Martin Luther King was all for integrating. Years later, we found out that Martin Luther King said it himself, that him advocating for integrating, he basically led us to the slaughter. All right. Appreciate that gifted membership, that Arius Love. Now it has came out that they forced, and I don't know how true this is, but they forced Martin Luther King to take the integration route. One thing as Black Americans that we can testify with, we were better off segregated. And the reason why we were better off segregated is because nothing was given to us.
Mm-hmm.
No federal funded programs, no state funded programs were given to us. Everything from Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, to Georgia, to all over, we did it without the help of anybody. We built our communities on our own. Later on, they came on our side of the train tracks, burnt it down, and the communities that they didn't burn down, they used water. And what was the terminology for them building the interstates and highways into our
eminent domain?
Bingo. And then later on, after all of that, then they came with the redlining. The Jim Crow was still there. But see, when people around the world look at Black Americans, when other African nations look at Black Americans, when immigrants from all over come to this country and see the condition that Black Americans are in, and they wonder why. Generational trauma. And the generational trauma did not come from our own people. The generation trauma came from our ops.
Right. You know what's so bad about it?
Hold up, Tammy, because I want to land another plane. Now BS as gentrification. I know I messed it up. But now here's the solution. Because how is it that mental illness, counseling, therapy, healing, why was it so taboo in the Black American community? Why everything that had to do with our progress, watermelon, right? We were taught for so many years that watermelon wasn't good for you, right? Now you see the smoothie detox. You see the watermelon fasting. You see all these beneficial health benefits that come along with watermelon. Where did the watermelon come from? The watermelon came from us. Why is it that everything for us to make progress, why does it get demonized? I'm almost finished, and then I'm gonna let y'all come in. Go back to us fighting pit bulls. It's such a crime. They sent Michael Vick to federal penitentiary for pit bull fighting, right? But why do we see the Caucasians hunting bears, deers, and other animals, and it's a sport to them.
Because
Something
they
is wrong.
stand
Something.
behind each
I'm
other.
gonna let you come in. I want to land this point, and I'm hoping that my Christian family is listening. I'm hoping that my Muslim family, I'm hoping that my Jehovah's Witnesses, I'm hoping that my Hebrew Israelites, I'm hoping that my Nation of Islam, more Sons Temple of America, I'm hoping that these people are watching. And this message is for us all. And I keep saying it, until we put these differences aside and work this together, we're going to continue to sink. Let me bring my new panelists up. Kizzle, slide in.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, I had also came a little late on the discussion, so I'm kind of like missing out some pieces.
Do you
Hello?
need somebody to lead you or let you know what we were
Yeah,
talking?
can I get like a little follow up on like what was the discussion about? Because I heard some parts of like Shank statements about like Martin Luther King and everything, but I just want to know like what was said before so I could you know articulate my words and respond back to what he was saying.
Okay, so the demonstration is about preventing the next Jarvis Butts by healing from child abuse and mental illness. So we was talking about, when you came in, we was talking about generational trauma, and we was talking about where the trauma originated from. Our trauma originated from the plantation. That's what led me to the Martin Luther King as far as integration and segregation. We were better off as Black Americans in doing segregation. Now, what led Martin Luther King up to wanting to integrate? Now that the Martin Luther King files have starting to come out, they release a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Allegedly, I gotta say allegedly, Martin Luther King was forced into integration. And if you go back to some of his speeches, Martin Luther King was radical just as well as the Black Panthers, Malcolm X, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Minister Louis Farrakhan, and so on and so on. Martin Luther King was a very radical Baptist preacher. But why was certain quotes, I have a dream, why was certain speeches of Martin Luther King promoted and advocated?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
That's a good
I'll
question.
go first.
Come on, Uncle Charlie.
I'm gonna say this. Martin Luther King said his whole speech was about having the dream that white children will be with Black children, and we all eat in the same restaurant. I want y'all to listen to me very carefully, because this was written in a book by ex-FBI agent. Martin Luther King was not killed for civil rights. Martin Luther King was killed for speaking out against the war. They was bringing drugs over in this country. We couldn't bring attention to that. That was a government thing that was going on, and they didn't have, they seen how much power Martin Luther King had, and he was talking about the war. Now, he was going to California, but it wasn't California that didn't want him out there, the people that wanted him to come talk. It was the people around him, his ministers. What did they do? They talked to him about going to Memphis. They stand up for those men out there that was eating in the rain, getting paid in the rain, and said, no, Mark, we need to go there because they need our help more. If you look in the book when Martin Luther King got shot, you see those men are pointing. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I'm just a man with an instinct. If somebody gets to shooting, I'm not pointing. I'm ducking. If you look at those men up on that porch up there, Martin Luther King laying there, it was some ministers with ties on and some wasn't. The ones that had the ties on was the target. The one without the ties wasn't the target. Just they said when Martin Luther King was killed, he was still alive.
Yes.
Jesse Jackson was heading down the steps to get in the car. The shots rang out. It rang out. And then all of a sudden, he's okay, let me go back up and help. But do you know when they got him to the hospital, he was still alive? The bullet went through his jaw, through his neck, down to his back. They couldn't get to it. So they knew he was paralyzed. They knew he couldn't move. And all of a sudden, the door was open. And here come the head general of the hospital and two guys in suits. And he said, everybody get out of here. Now, the nurse said before she walked out, she heard one of those guys in the black suit do something with his mouth. He honked and he spit on Martin Luther King. And the doctor, the head doctor of that hospital, allegedly took the pillow and smothered him.
Sure.
They did not kill him. They did not kill him for civil rights. See, he said, I have a dream, but my dream don't turn to a nightmare because the system was against it. And he said, it ain't no win with these people. There's no win with these people.
Wow.
They said nobody should be in the air while Martin Luther King is killed. But yet it's still who was in the air in the airplane? Jesse Jackson. Calling himself the new leader. A new leader of what? Because they supposed to got Martin Luther King and Reverend Abernathy. But Reverend Abernathy didn't come out the door. So they got Martin. This is what it is, y'all. This is what it is. Some things is not to be explained. Kennedy was killed, and you're going to tell me that he was shot from a grassy knoll. You got to be the best shooter in the world to shoot a motorcade that's going 30 to 40 miles an hour. He was shot from the ground. He was shot in the car. All that. And he was another one, was getting into that Cuba thing over in Cuba. And they said, no, you messing with the wrong thing. Back off. And then all of a sudden he ended up dead. This is what I'm talking about. Martin Luther King wanted us to be equal with everybody. But the game was against him. It was against him. We was going to black hotels, y'all. We was going to black hotel, black hospitals. But when the immigration thing was passed, all of a sudden we left the black stores and went to the white stores.
Preach.
That's exactly what happened.
Preach.
And that's all I got to say.
That was a mountain.
You know what? I appreciate you, Mr. C. I think you're hilarious, number one. Let me say that.
That's Uncle Charlie.
And-
That's Uncle Charlie, Tammy. Uncle Charlie.
Okay, Uncle Charlie, you're hilarious. First of all, I agree with you on a couple of things. That what happened was for a reason because there were several things happening at the same time. So if I take away your level of leadership and I introduce drugs into your community, I can slow this thing down some, even derail it. And that's what they did. They took away the leadership and they added another component, which was drugs. I have an idea. I don't even know if I should explain it here, but I'm going to tell you what I would like to do. And because drugs play a big part of all of this. Mm-hmm. And again, when it comes to generational trauma, we got to realize, see, we're afraid to say we're dealing with the devil. We're afraid to say that. Because when we talk about the attributes and the contributions to society from those in control, what type of psyche are we talking about? Why do we think these people are supposed to do right by us or even teach us anything when they need us?
Yep. When
you don't understand your own power and you don't know where your strength is, you lack the courage to stand up to, that's the predator.
Yes.
So
I agree.
People are afraid. They are afraid, and it comes from the trauma. They live in fear. What happens with trauma, and I can tell you from my own trauma, you're supposed to be able to come back down to zero. I want you to think of your emotions like I always come back down to the base. First, I'm disappointed. Then I might be disgusted by something. Then I might get mad. Then I might get angry. Then I get sad before I go into rage and rip you a new ass. But with trauma, I never get back down to disgust because I'm living on mad. So it don't take me that long to get to rage. Does that make sense?
It makes
Yes.
water sense. Because after all that happens, then we go and get medicated. And the
Absolutely.
drugs that are brought into our states, not just community, but that are bought and put in the states, those are being bought by the government. So when you said that drugs play a intricate part in everything, you spoke the truth. The government and the cartels all have each other's back in such a way to where they have the doctors, they have the lawyers, they have the government, the jails, and each big wig gets appointed a state. You take this state and you make this happen here. You throw this in that community, and then we come back to the table, and then we talk about what we gonna do next. What we gonna do next? We gonna sit back and watch people take each other out now.
What we do next after they introduce that is try to get our loved one back, because now we're distracted with, because when
Mhm.
I got on drugs, my mama didn't know what to do with me. She like, oh my God, my beautiful daughter. What the hell
Mhm.
happened?
Yes.
What happened to my baby? I raised her to be a strong black woman. I know she's smart. I know she got what it takes to make it. What happened to her? I told you what happened to me. I didn't feel protected. I got touched on inappropriately, not once, but twice.
But
And
then
then I got on drugs. Then the introduction happened. When the introduction happens, it's through an initiation process of somebody you know and trust. That's where your peers are. See, they sick too, but you don't know it yet.
yes.
Because we don't wear our pain on our sleeve. We
Yeah.
not honest about what's hurting us. We want to
Mm,
keep pretending like the
mm,
stuff that's
Yeah.
happening, we
mm,
want to normalize it. It's not normal. And as long as we keep following them, we will die.
mm.
And I
Yes.
and I could agree with that because I'm currently only 19 years old, and I had commented on Shank one of his little replays videos, commenting that I had shared similarities that kind of like the Nasiah Hurricane when we talking generational trauma. It kind of started with it kind of like I'm just now finding out that the things about that I went through with like molestation in our family as a child, I never understood why it was happening and why it was swept underneath the rug until years came out later that I found out that my grandmother was molested and raped by somebody that she thought they looked up to her. I mean, that she looked up as a dad and a father to. It really started with my great grandmother. She was, I think she was around like 17 years old at the time, and I'm from Philly, so it's kind of different over here. But basically, she had two young kids, and my great grandmother mother was in this church, and I don't like it's kind of hard to explain, but basically she was arranged marriage, and she was in his arranged marriage because she was 17 years old with two kids. She was currently pregnant with one of them, which was my grandmother, and the other kid she had, who was my uncle, he was only 1 year at the time 1 year old at the time. She wasn't married. She basically had kids out of wedlock, and that was like a big thing around that time, especially for church people. So what happened was that my great grandmother mother had introduced her to this lady that she communicated with at this church, and she had a son, oldest son. He was no older than 30 years old, and he was currently in the army serving in the navy and stuff. And I think that was like a big golden ticket around that time. And I think that I think to this day, like if you married with children, that you get to get a lot of benefits with being in the army. So they was like very adamant on finding him a wife. And he was already known for kind of being like what you could say, a Rolling Stone. He was a trick. He wasn't known to settle down and have children. So his mother was adamant on him having a wife and having children so he could get the full benefits from when he was in the army. So
Mm-hmm.
they arranged this marriage. And, she was already coming into this marriage with two young children already. And I kind of think that that's where they all started. And he raised those two young children as his. And my great grandfather, was known for like basically taking in other people's children and raising it as his own. So it kind of wasn't odd. So basically, once my grandmother got older, we started my great grandmother started noticing signs with her. Like when she was around my great grandfather, she would like tend to resort to acting like a child. And that was kind of like around that time she was around, I think she was about 15 years old. She would talk like a child, like a 7-year old, like call him
Mm.
daddy and be like very innocent. And it was kind of odd. And then around that time, she was basically a street runner. He would let her, he was her favorite kind of. He was her favorite child. He let her do what she want. She was running around. And that's how she ended up getting knocked up with my mother because she was running around, being grown in the streets. And and he was known for being a strict parent to everybody else. So it was kind of odd. And I think one day how it came out that he ended up was basically the whole time he was raping my grandmother. And that's why she was acting the way she was acting and was like running around. It's kind of hard for me to speak about it because I just found this out and it kind of like it's very sensitive to me. And it's like really my first time speaking about it because it just it just answered so many questions to why I was getting molested as a child and why things were swept underneath the rug and why wasn't certain things being handled how it was supposed to be handled. And that was because and how she and kind of how they found out it was happening is because one day his sister, which is our aunt, she went past, to go check up on the kids. And around this time, my great grandmother was separated. They had divorced. So it was like two separate homes now. So the kids would come to his house on the weekends and whenever they felt like it, and the kids would stay with her whenever they felt like it. But out of all the kids they had, my grandma was the only one that was very adamant on like living with her. And we all thought, and I'm not gonna say we, but they all thought back then it was because of how he treated her, because she was allowed to, do what she want basically. But one time my great aunt had went past to go check up on the kids and stuff. And this is literally in like daytime. So there was no reason why my grandmother was in the bed with my great grandfather sleeping with no pants on. And she found them, and that's when she took my grandmother to my great grandmother's and explained to what happened. And you know, I think it was kind of cut between them three about what happened because I feel like it was because years later, one of my older cousins, he had to been like around 15, 16 years old, and I was like 6 at the time, and he started molesting me, and it was this game that he used to play called House. And
Mm.
we had a lot of younger cousins that was around my age. It was about like 10 of us all in one house. So and I'm sorry, I'm in public. Hold on. But basically I didn't grow up with my dad. My dad was a street runner. He was in and out of jail. And my dad was currently serving like 5 years around this time. So he wasn't around. So I think I was like an easy target for him to touch.
Yes, you
And
were.
I can only say that around that time I still got dating issues to this day. So I was any type of male attention, I was gravitate to it. And he would like, around that time all the adults around me kind of ignored the kids, let the kids be kids. They didn't really show us any attention besides, putting a roof over the top of our head and feeding us and clothing us. Other than that, we would just basically do what normal kids be doing. But him as an older cousin, he would play with us. And I had a lot of older cousins, but they didn't play with us. They would treat us like a bird, like, get out of my room. He always was nice to me. He would take me to the store, stuff like that, show me like special treatment. And I kind of gravitated to that. But one time I remember he called me in his room and he started tickling me very harsh. And it was like to the point where, it's one of them tickles where it hurt, but at the same time, it was like he was giggling.
Oh,
It was very uncomfortable, and then he just started touching my private parts, and that's really where it started at. And
mm,
I think it lasted for at least like 2 years or so. And
Sorry to hear that, baby.
it had
Thank
came
you for
out.
that story. Thank you for your
Thank you.
honesty. And thank you. You know what, baby? You're not a victim. You're a survivor. And you just taught us something. You just taught us something with what you went through. You saying, hey, we gotta watch people that are too old to be hanging around young folks like Tommy was with Callie and find too much interest in them. Maybe this is the red flag that we're ignoring, just like Jarvis was to Isaiah. He was too old to have that much interest in that child. Thank you
Come
for
on,
your honesty.
come on, Miss Tammy. You
Thank
right.
you.
That's
It's
that's
it's
fact.
it's a lot. Like my story kind of go far. They back way before my time, and even currently it's still happening right now. Like, cause it came to come to find out that I'm sorry guys, I'm at work. I'm gonna try to go outside so you can hear me better.
Clear, sweet.
Screen thank you.
For being where you are.
Can
I
you
can
guys hear me better?
We can
I can hear
yeah.
you from the beginning.
Yeah. Basically, after that and how it came out that he was touching me is that he had a lot of allegations floating around. It was almost like any kid that was around him, he basically touched. And it went from him just tickling and like, playing with the kids' private parts to him touching little boys and actually, inserting his thing inside them. And it was just, it's a lot. Like I could go on all day you know, about what happened.
Us survivors know exactly what you mean, where you coming from, baby. That's what you
Yeah,
call the grooming part of it.
yeah. It's a
Exposure
lot. And that's why
the
when I've
love.
been when I've been watching Shank demonstrations, he kind of made me feel comfortable, to open up to speak about these things regarding with the Nazai Harris situation. Because I know it's like in the comments, a lot of people be like, well, why was this person still around and why was this swept under your rug? And like Shank said, like in the black community, it's kind of learned that our trauma is kind of not really trauma. And it should be embarrassment or like judgment more than, hey, let me sit down, figure out
Stigma.
what the problem is,
Stigma.
stuff like that. Yep.
it is not
There's
your
a
fault.
stigma like you're supposed to be so strong, like that lie they tell you boys don't cry. Why not? They got emotions. They give you false belief systems to run off of, and you make a value system out of that bullshit
Yep.
Yeah.
when
Let
there
me
is no
slide in.
Yep.
value in it.
Let me slide in, and then I'm gonna bring Mel in. I, like I said, anger management. When I first got sentenced to anger management, and I'm in anger management, and we sitting around, and I'm sent to the anger management because I had an anger problem. I had an anger issue. So I'm sitting in there my first day. I got my arms crossed like this. I got my mug broke down. I'm like, man, I got shit to do, man. Can we hurry up? I'm, looking at the people. I mean, mugging the people when they giving their testimonies and everything. You know what I mean? So my man, he looking at me and he was like, "You don't want to do this, do you?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want to do this." And he said, "Well, obviously, it's a reason why you were sent here. Someone felt a need for you to be sent here to get this class. This is anger management. Do you got an anger problem?" I'm like, man, I'm looking, I'm pissed. I don't want to be here. But I'm seeing how everyone else that's there is opening up. And I'm seeing how happy they are. They smiling, they're laughing. My funky ass over here with all this negativity, with all of this toxic on me, with all this BS attached to me, not willing to let it go. Not that I didn't want to let it go, but I just refused to let go of the programming that I was programmed. You a man, you a black man, you gotta go hard. Anything come your way, you know what I mean? Deal with it. Pee Wee, I'm on one. But it wasn't until I began to open up and I started to feel good. And I was like, wow, and then I started to take the accountability and I started to say, damn, I was being an asshole. I was being angry. And with all of that, the issues, the self-inflicted issues, because we always got to remember, now this is not the inappropriate touching. I'm going past the inappropriate touching, because nothing, if you were inappropriately touched, it was never your fault. I'm just going to the monsters, okay? And I was a monster at one time. And it was anger management that helped me get rid of this monster. I was finally able to talk about it. I was finally around people that street mentality, that programming that we got, that shit don't work over here. So now I'm in tune with myself. Now I'm laughing more. I haven't laughed at that anger management that I was in, and I think I was probably like 26 or 27. I haven't laughed that much until me, Pee Wee, and us was 14 and 15, and we used to be around the way cracking on each other. It was a long time before I laughed that hard, but it brought me out of a dark space because I was dealing with the death of my daughter. Now, the death of my daughter in 97, it put me in a dark place where if my daughter wouldn't have passed away, some of the things that I've done to people, I wouldn't have done it. But I'm in a dark place. I'm about to land my plane, and then I'm going to let Mel and Pee Wee come in. Healing, the healing process, it comes when we accept accountability. We got to accept accountability, or we will continue to be in this dark place. Come in, Mel, and then Pee Wee, you follow up.
Salute, Shank, and salute to everybody on the panel.
Hello.
Shank, before I start, I want to ask you this question because you always tell that story about yourself. Do you know where your anger management started?
My anger issues started when my father passed away at 9. Okay. Then I stepped off the porch. Me and Tammy was speaking on this. I stepped off the porch 10, 11 years old. By the time I hit 13, I was in criminal activity at 13 and 14. People can vouch for this. Now, amongst us, we are taught to, I don't know why, but we're taught to be angry. We're taught to be mad.
Because you can't express your emotions. Who wouldn't be?
Bingo.
And then just think, back then, all you needed was grief counseling.
Yep.
See how easy that is. But that was just a resource unavailable to the Black communities, because, I mean, from the trauma and grief that we experienced since the beginning of time, or slavery or whatever, that was like not something that we needed. So, but that when we look at it today, that's all you needed was just grief counseling.
Yeah.
As a child, being able to understand, the passing of your father and what that meant. But so I knew that you already told that story, but I just always kind of wondered where your anger issues came from. And they just kind of following up on the behaviors of the
You went out, Mel.
I can't hear her.
Family member or children, all behaviors are learned. So that's why they become generational, because they're learned. And if you really think about it, it did start during slavery, and so it was their way to continue. They couldn't erase us, so they totally broke us down. In other words, you know what I mean? Through sexual assault of not just men, but not just women, but men too. So that was to break the spirit, because through all of the slavery, the beatings, work hours or whatever, Black people still had strong spirits. So they had to break the spirit. And we know that through intimate contact, spirits are transmitted. So sometimes that's why they say, like when you are going through those things or promiscuously or whatever, you're transferring different spirits from one person to the next. Some good spirits, some bad, right? So all that was generational. So that's how we got to this point. And it's hard to figure out where does it stop, because we still, as Black people, are in the notion of we don't tell, which will lead up to the children that we're dealing with today, that kind of don't tell movement. And I wanted to speak on that, and then speak on one other thing, and then I'm gonna yield the floor to Pee Wee. I think it was the guy, I don't remember his name, that's up here on the panel, but
Uncle Charlie.
Oh, Uncle Charlie. About what he was talking about, the reason for Martin Luther King's assassination, but he's absolutely correct. That was we were in. It was a drug war. It was a drug war, and back during the '60s, South Asia was producing heroin, which came and flooded most of the. I'm from the South, so that was very popular in the northern states. It wasn't really that popular down south, but flooded flooded the United States, the Black communities, with heroin because they were producing it. But I guess they were more or less, I guess like any kind of like present day, like in the hood, somebody go crash on somebody's site and steal their stuff. So it was pretty much a thing like that, deals. And so that's how heroin. But not only was it that, how like the United States won World War One and won World War II, but they lost the Vietnam War because the Vietnamese was actually giving the heroin to those young American soldiers. They had never seen war. They're in a foreign country. They're 18, 19 years old, 17 years old, and some even younger than that. And they're fighting in some type of war that they didn't know what. So they gave them the heroin, kind of like the heroin kind of like took that away from them. And so that's how they lost the war, because they drugged them. And I'm going to yield the floor on that.
Let me let Pee Wee slide in. Salute, Pee Wee.
Salute to everybody in the chat. Blessings to everybody. I was saying, because I'm in and out and I'm in a bad area, so, and plus I'm at the movies on date night with my girl. But I was listening to Tammy earlier, right? And me being, and Shank, and Tammy me being a foster child and experienced child abuse, right? I gotta say, it's this anger that come with this shit, right? And Shank, you said it earlier, when we start to suppress stuff, right? And this just because where I'm at now, I'm not where I used to be, right? So I explain this shit for me, because I always felt like the outcast. As you know, Shank, growing up, I always felt like the one that had to do what nobody else did. I always felt like I had to overcome. I always felt defensive, like somebody was coming at me, because my parents, the ones that I was born with, wasn't up to par. That's what I gotta say. And it took me, like, in the years getting locked up, same way Tammy said, as a child, we don't know how to process these feelings and emotions that we are going through. And I didn't know how to process it. So this is the thing about it that I learned since being accountable, like you said, Shank, and start living and being happy, right? That I didn't know how to process some feelings, so they came out in my actions. Drug use. Shank, boosting, robbing, lying, cheating, stealing from my friends, because I didn't know how to be a friend, right? But these is all the repercussions of us not allowing our kids to process their feelings. And listen, how about we say spare the rod, spoil the child. Okay, that's spare the rod. We ain't saying abuse the child. The Bible ain't saying abuse the child. It's saying, listen, correct him, discipline them. It's the difference between discipline and abuse.
That's real.
Right? So, now, listen, now that I'm with my youngest son, I probably did it with my oldest son. That's why he's incarcerated. I didn't allow him to express himself. Didn't allow him to be who he was, respectfully. But my youngest son, I'm in a different place. I raised him different. Young man, 17 years old. He got 2 jobs, 2 summer jobs. I can see the difference now. You see what I'm saying? And listen, then I allow my kids to listen. So how about I can sit down and I can be the target board. Say what you got to say. Because I know by them allowing them to say what they got to say, they're freeing their self. They're freeing their self, right? They're freeing their self from the stuff that we learned, like you said, Shank, at an early age to suppress. I gotta be angry. I gotta go hard. Anybody that challenge me, or I think, the jealousy and the hate earlier on. Oh, that nigga think he's slick. Excuse my language, but that's how it was. I gotta bust him in his head because he think he's slick. No, he just dressed a little bit better than me, and I was jealous. Come on, let's get to the direct nature, Tammy. You feel what I'm saying? Yeah.
I do.
That stuff like, listen, Shank, I swear on everything, yo, I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life right now, bro. I'm talking about with money, without money. I can be broke, but I'm telling you, I had to, listen, and then another thing is, and we always say we can't forgive people. It's going to be beef for the rest of my life, right? Nah, man. Because listen, I heard somebody say this before, and I took heed. When I'm beefing them and I'm suppressing with somebody else, I'm also putting myself through suffering. I'm also inflicting harm on myself. Because for me to be angry, for me to be mad, I got to go into a mode. Can you hear me, Shank?
Yeah.
I got to go into a mode, bro. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you. We can hear you. Yeah. And I agree with you as well. You can't hear us.
No, I couldn't hear y'all. But let me. I'm gonna land because I gotta go. We gotta go in the movies. But the thing about it is, Shane, now as we grew up by the power of something that's outside of us, what I choose to call God, right? Allowed me. Listen, before you can deal with the outside, you got to go inside. I had to learn how to go. Listen, I had to forgive the people who hurt me because I didn't want to hurt other people. That's the thing about it is, 9 out of 10, the victim become the predator.
Hurt people.
Or the child, yeah, the victim become the predator. You understand what I'm saying? So, if for me not to become the predator, I have to listen, go inside and go through what I gotta go through. That onion, that inside that needs to be. I gotta tap into that shit and realize a lot of times people think it was their fault when you was the victim, and it's not your fault. You was a victim. You wasn't a volunteer. Some stuff we volunteered. We start volunteering when we ain't know how to express the emotions that we was inside for. Stay in places we ain't want to stay no more. Staying with people we ain't want to be with no more. Why? Because we ain't had the confidence or the accountability to take responsibility for ourselves.
Your self-esteem was beat down and you couldn't get to the next level.
Exactly. So listen, we become dependent, we become drug users, we become robbers, we become thieves. Why? Because I don't know how to process through my own feelings. Because listen, I don't care what nobody say. The hardest person to live with is self. Because even today, we still go back, even with some new knowledge, we still go back and forth with each other, with myself. Say, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, or one for 2 weeks straight, I could be on my health regimen. The next week I'm messed up, back and forth with each. But listen, not with nobody else, but with myself. I'm struggling with me. You understand what I'm saying? And it's just human nature, bro. You know what I mean? Some people can do it and get and stick to it. But listen, when they fall off, what is the beating that you're going to put on yourself because you fell off, or you're going to get up, dust yourself off, and get back on it again? You understand what I'm saying? So, I just think a lot of it is just human nature, and we got to learn how to process and allow our kids. Listen, we might not agree with the way the Caucasian community, but we want our kids to do it, but we just want them to do it respectfully. And then sometimes you just got to give them that space, that safe space that we talk about. What really is a safe space? But listen, I know when I call Shank, I'm in a safe place because I don't care what I say, he gonna still be my friend because he understands me. I know when I call Tammy, I'm gonna be in a safe place. Cause listen, she been my friend since a child. She gonna understand me. If you don't have them kind of people, life's gonna be real hard for you.
Right or wrong, it didn't matter.
Exactly.
Because you know the core person is worth saving. You know that people are not inherently bad. They just got some things going on that they can't get out their own way.
Exactly. But Shank, I love y'all. I'm about to go ahead and this movie because my movie's
Love
starting.
you more. What y'all gonna see? I'm gonna say I want to wait for Superman.
That's what we're going to see. We're going to see
And
Superman.
Fantastic Four coming out. I think that's supposed to be the 25th or one of those Marvels. You know, I'm a Marvel and DC fan.
Yeah. But I love y'all. Y'all have a blessed day.
Love you
Thanks
more.
for inviting me, man. Everybody keep that head up, man. Stay blessed.
All right, love you too, Pee Wee. And as always, Pee Wee always come through and drop jewels. I wish the demonstration could go longer, but we are at the final stage. Any last words before we get out of here, Tammy?
I do have a last word about toxicity, and we need to teach one another what a toxic relationship really looks like. A toxic relationship is about codependency. We don't have to be codependent because we have something inner that we're connected to, right? That maybe we can't explain it, but nobody else has been through the atrocities that we have culturally and yet still stand. And we have to know that we do pass these traumas down to our kin unintentionally. And I want everybody to look at Blackfish. It is a documentary about a whale. A whale is a mammal. And Blackfish, he was in captivity. And how even his offspring were killer whales, because that's how we're designed. If we're holding that aggression, we're going to pass it down. If we're holding on to toxic energy or even psychopathic energy, we're more likely to pass that down and transfer that energy onto the people that we love. And let's stop being silent about people we know who are sick and encourage them. Call them out. You know, I don't know why this is such a secret. And let's get rid of the irrational core belief system. Boys don't cry. Girls must hold on to their virtue. And if they're not, they're a whore. And because I've been raped now, and I automatically think I'm a whore because I couldn't protect my virtue. Let's stop the foolishness and understand where it takes us and stop coming from this place of oppression, because we can speak our voice. But know that when you stand up to power, there may be a price to pay, but that's our sacrifice. I'm done.
Appreciate you, Tammy. As always, Tammy come with the jewels. Make sure you come back next week. This demonstration I'm going to have every Sunday. We're going to just discuss ways to prevent the illnesses that we all are facing. So, Tammy, I'm hoping that you will pull up next week. Love you and salute, Tammy.
I love you too, Eric. I want to say something to you, though. I want you to help me with something. I probably shouldn't say it on the internet. I have an idea. You know what happened here with 25 people, right?
Over Penn and
That
North.
fell out. Yeah, I have my own ideas about that, but it's something that we don't have. We don't have a drug museum, the history of drugs, how it's being introduced. I would like to gather that material together and create such a place. Let's
do it. However you want to do it. You know what I mean? Let's do it.
Because I think it hasn't been done anywhere else. Nobody else is thinking about it. And I think it could be that place where everybody can come, and it could be that teachable moment, because when you're talking about drugs, you got to talk about both sides. You got to talk about the healing side and how detrimental and the things that it caused, because letting the government try to fight a war on drugs isn't working. But the people who have gone through it could probably teach more than they can.
Right. Let me finish up with this, Tammy, and I'm going to hit you up on Facebook Messenger here.
Okay.
All right. Any last words, Mel, before we get out of here?
Yeah. I'm sorry, Shane. So I guess I'll just kind of reiterate on the question of your demonstration on how to prevent, things that happen to Naziah from happening again. Hopefully through the things that are going on, in our new administration, it seems that, a lot of things are being addressed, but the number one thing that is not being addressed are the mental health issues that plague the Black community. And the reason why those issues are there is because as a form of, treatment or, let's see, I don't know. I kind of lost my chain of thought, but it starts with mental health, but there are no programs out there to, like, say, for instance, we already know what happened to Naziah. She's no longer with us, but she still have cousins that were also a part of that. Are they receiving mental health counseling? Because that's very, very important to help overcome those issues. A lot of times in the Black community, mental health counseling is always mental health counseling is very expensive. I've even heard professional athletes that are doing mental health counseling that talk about how much it costs. Mm-hmm. So, how do we tackle that? I know dentists do pro bono work, lawyers do pro bono work. Can we get some mental health counselors in our communities to do pro bono? But I think it's going to start with, those tools that's going to be needed for victims to stop the cycle. And
okay. Now I was just going to say, whatever healing process, whatever resolutions that we come up with to solve our issues, it's going to take finances. We as a people, we are going to have to support these programs. Once again, we can't keep dwelling on government funding programs. We cannot. We got to focus.
I'm not talking about government funding. I say pro bono. Like, how you have attorneys that do a certain amount of dollars in pro bono work every year because that's a part of their oath. You have dentists that do it. You have doctors. But what about mental health counselors?
Right. And
in
I agree.
Communities. You know what I mean? Can they do pro bono? A certain amount of hours to the side to take cases, especially serious cases and cases that include children. I don't mean a government program. I mean pro bono. I'm gonna go Tupac. You got $36 million, and that man ain't got a dollar. Too many
And that's something
billionaires.
that's something that we gotta tap into. We're gonna
Yeah.
have to tap into.
There's too many billionaires out there, and oh, you can't take that money with you,
That's right.
right?
You're right.
You can leave generational wealth and still help people that don't have. Hey, who Oprah leaving her generation wealth too? She ain't got no kids. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. You on point.
Gotcha.
But I digress. And holler at you later. I'm not sure who else that is there that has a C by their name.
That's Uncle Charles.
Okay, Uncle Chad, I digress. All right.
All right. Appreciate you, Mel. Any last words, Uncle Charles? And I wish I could go longer, but I'm running late. I'm behind something, so that's why I had to end this. Any last words, Uncle Charles?
Yes, sir. And I appreciate you for having this show today. Let me say this to the women, our sisters and brothers. If you've been sexually assaulted, I want you to listen to me very carefully. Carry this with you. It is not your fault. It's not your fault. And we need to know what mental illness is. See, let me tell you something. When you walking around and you don't mess on yourself and you ask somebody how much the cornflakes is, that's mental health. Not touching a child. Not that. Now, you want to talk about crazy and out of their mind? Jeffrey Dahmer is crazy. His first kill was a dog. And he went from a dog to a human being. That's mental illness. Putting your hand on children is not. I want to thank you, Shank, for letting me come on, man. I even learned something myself. I'm going to accept the healing and be able to watch out for people that's getting done like children or adults getting done like this. So I thank you. Kudos to you, brother, for putting this show together. And like I said, if I will come back as long as you will allow me to come back. Because I'm going to tell you about Uncle Charles. I'm going to say what I got to say. And you can take it with you, or you can leave it alone. But life is life, and I don't been through it, and I don't saw it, and I don't been up close to it. And know this, I love y'all. I love this panel. I love the people that's in the show. Know that it's not your fault. That's all I got to say.
Appreciate you, Uncle Charlie. Love you back, and hope to see you next Sunday. Any last words before we get out of here, Kizzle?
Yes, I just really wanted to make sure I thank you, Shank, for even allowing me use your platform to like spread awareness and tell my story. Because it's kind of hard for me to speak about it. And out of all the content creators I watch, viewers, especially it's big with you being a black man also. I felt very comfortable telling my story. And that was kind of like my first time even speaking about it publicly. And I would really thank you for that. And I just want you to know that continue doing what you're doing because I'm living proof that it's getting out to the youth. I'm only 19 years old and I watch their lives virtually. So I just want you to know that, continue to spread awareness and speak your truth because that kind of opened doors for me to allow me to speak my truth. And I just like to thank you like very a lot. Even I'm sorry you can hear my voice trembling. It's just a lot that
No,
I
you
deal with.
straight. You straight. I'm just happy and glad that you're up here. You're straight.
Yes. And a lot of things you talk about, like, dealing with anger issues and stuff like that, I can relate to it. So I just want to thank you and just want you to keep moving on with what you're doing because it's helping a lot. And it's really helped me through a lot. And I also would like to thank, the people that was on the panel that listened to my story and gave feedback and also the chat. Thank you.
You welcome, Kizzle, and I appreciate you for pulling up. And you're welcome anytime on my panel. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right. I just got one quick announcement before we all get out of here. So if you are interested in the Switching Lanes on Yo Funky Ass merch, all right, the first order will be placed on this Friday, July the 18th. Here's how. This is how you place your order. DM me on Instagram. Let me know the sizes the color, and how many shirts you want. All right. And then on Friday, so you'll have 5 days to come up with the actual amount for the shirt. On Friday morning, you'll cash at me whatever the price it is for the shirts that you get. All right. Once again, if you are interested in the switching lanes on your funky ass t-shirt, DM me on Instagram. Let me know what colors. Let me know how many shirts you want, and let me know the sizes. I'll tell you the amount that it's going to cost. And then on this Friday, July the 18th, you'll cash at me your money. All right. I appreciate everybody for pulling up. Shout out to everybody that blessed my panel. Shout out. Once again, it's going to take the community, and it's me, you, and everybody else that's in this community. It's going to take us to get our community back to where it needs to be at. Our communities all over the world, not just Black communities, all communities over the world aren't looking too good. We as the people, we gotta do right by our communities. Salute everybody. I will leave the chat running. If you all, Miss Parker is going live. I'm not sure of the time. Make sure y'all check Miss Parker's time to see what time she's going live. Salute everybody, and I'll see everybody back on the next demonstration. I will leave the chat running, and you all can hang around. Salute everybody.
I like to place an order. Yeah. Hey, let me get a chicken box and a half and half. All right, good looking out.
Tinted window screaming after law out my mouth. I'm switching lanes from up north to down south. Now everybody trying to figure how I put it down. I took my show on the road straight out of town. Pee-wee is my nigga, so you know I brought some crooks with me.
1998, they tried to throw the book at me.
Tell me what you see every time you take a look at me. A straight P, I only be where the hookers be. A old head, but still can pull any fly chick. One thing's for sure, you never see me ride a nigga dick. I got a thoroughbred who loves to call me pretty daddy. Through Alabama, getting hit in a pink caddy when I come through. Everybody knows me. The young niggas love me. They call me they OG. Go and do your homework about the shit that I spit. They gon' tell you that that nigga Shank is legit. A chicken box a half and half when I'm switching lanes. I'm switching lane. A chicken box a half and half when I'm switching lanes. When I'm switching lane. A chicken box a half and half when I'm switching lanes. When I'm switching lane. A chicken box a half and half when I'm switching lanes. When I'm switching lane. I eat a chicken box before I play a game of spades. I guess a half and half is sweet tea mixed with lemonade. Some brown liquor with a coke to sharpen up my skills. I switch lanes cause I only fuck with the real. Now she's a winner, so I got to keep her on my team. Plus I'm a real one, so I never ever sell her dreams. You wanna know if I'll quit or if I'll stop? But they say it ain't over till your casket drops. A chicken box a half and half when I'm switching lanes. When I'm switching lane. A chicken box a half and half when I'm switching lanes. When I'm switching lane. A chicken box a half and half when I'm switching lanes. When I'm switching lane. A chicken box a half and half when I'm switching lanes. When I'm switching lane.